Blog Talk Radio.
Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is!
Looks like we're experiencing technical difficulty, but don't worry, folks. We're still on the air.
Yes, we are. That Nerd Show is back for another exciting week, and as you probably saw the title of our show, we will be doing an Oscar Roundup and talking about why Warren Beatty probably should never be a presenter at the Oscars anymore. But we'll get to that a little bit later. With me, I'm Marcus Blake, one of your hosts, and with me, as always, is Brendan.
What's up, nerds?
And we've got Alex Moore with us again tonight, who's going to really share some insight about movies and stuff. So say hi, Alex.
Mellow greetings.
All right. Before we get to nerd news, I swear to God we keep having to do this, and it's really pissing me off. But our editorial segment tonight, which is what we're starting with, is about Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton passed away this weekend due to complications from surgery, and very, very shocking. He was only 61, and, you know, just like Carrie Fisher, and we've grown up with Bill Paxton in movies. A lot of the movies that we love, you know, he has been in, and he's one of the favorites of James Cameron and stuff like that. And since we do reside in Texas, and he is a native Texan, you know, some of us at that Nerd Show, we've had a chance to meet him more than once, and, you know, an incredible talent, very nice guy, and from that local standpoint, it just makes things even, you know, more sad. And also considering that, you know, he had a new show on CBS, Training Day, which was turning out to be pretty good. But yes, Bill Paxton will definitely be missed, and you know, there isn't much more that I can say about that. I'm just,
I've got one thing I can say.
Yeah.
Game over, man. Game over.
At least we could add some humor to it. But by the way,
I mean, I think he would want to be. I think he would want that at the end of his eulogy.
Oh yeah.
Something
I don't
from
know
True
if
Lies, though. It has to be that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna pick up women, you might as well go all the way with a spy story. So, I don't know if many nerds out there actually know this, but Bill Paxton has a very unique honor in the nerd universe. He's the only actor who's played characters that have officially been killed by the Terminator, an alien, and a predator. All three things. Nobody else has that claim to fame. So, anyway, just very sad.
And Phil Coulson.
That is true. That you are right about that.
Shield.
Man, that's a fourth thing. Yep. Wow, I had forgot about that. So, not one more than the trifecta. So he's wow. That will be a great trivia question at places. So, but we don't have any word yet on what will be happening with Training Day on CBS. This has happened so recently, there just hasn't really been any news, and we don't know how many episodes have been shot, and, you know, whether he'll be replaced or what. So we'll see. But we remember Bill Paxton as also, it should be pointed out, he was actually one of the bright spots to Titanic. So if Titanic were to ever get a sequel, I would rather have, like, treasure hunting with, you know, his character from that. Just a little side note. Okay. One thing, too, in this editorial segment, I do have to point out, we're going to give Alex a little hard time. How dare you not get a perfect score on the Tombstone trivia from Facebook? I mean,
well, okay. Well, I will concede that I will concede that I could not remember the name of the cowboy on the stagecoach.
Okay,
as his brother was leaving, but the other one, it was a misfire. That one, as far as where Wyatt Earp died, I'm claiming that was actually just a miscue. I actually remember where he died.
Okay,
I just clicked the wrong answer,
we'll allow that this time. As long as you remembered which brother that Bill Paxton played, and that he was the first one, and that he was the one that died. That's
right.
What's important. Okay. Bill Paxton would be mad if you didn't. All right, moving right along to nerd news and things that are going on. We're going to start with, this is kind of an obvious thing, but it was officially announced. Patrick Stewart did let fans know that the Logan movie is his official last X-Men movie. He's done. And not that we're going to give anything away, but we will... once you see the movie, you'll understand why, and it's it's a graceful way of his character, and for his character's run in X-Men. But no more Patrick Stewart. And if this for a last X-Men movie, and we'll have our full review up this week by Chloe James. He was really great in it, and just reminding us yet again why we love Patrick Stewart. So. But yeah, that happened. For you Fortitude fans on Amazon, season 2 has been officially picked up. So it's the first season started back in January, and we don't have a review of this. We haven't had a chance to really get into the show yet and tell you what our thoughts are. But we will let you know that if you're a fan of this show, it has been picked up for season 2. And from what I've heard from fans, I mean, Dennis Quaid's really good in it, so must be a reason we got picked up for season 2. And we officially have casting for Black Lightning on the CW. It will be actor Cress Williams, who has been in shows like The Code Black and Heart of Dixie. He was also in The West Wing and in Friday Night Lights, and he has been around for a while and stuff. So, but Cress Williams is the new Black Lightning, and not really any time frame of when we'll see Black Lightning appear in any of the shows. So, but there you go. And this one, we do have to. This one's basically for Brendan because this got officially announced this week, but. It looks like we are officially getting a Nightwing movie, and it will be directed by Chris McKay. Yeah, no. Finally! But you get excited now, but it's somehow going to exist in this DC universe. Just remember, of all the crap that's been happening and why we're doing our panel at Allcon. So you're excited, but at the same time, they could very easily screw this up.
It could be. I mean, it's a flustercluck waiting to happen. Don't get me wrong, but I'd much rather. I'm still pissed that we're not getting the Teen Titans TV show. But hey, whatever.
Right.
So so we'll see how it goes. But
to me at this point, if you've introduced a world where it's 20 years after Batman started, then you have to do Nightwing. You have if you're opening it up.
You can't have Dick Grayson be Robin.
Right. Exactly. And I like the idea of Nightwing being able to pop in and out of the Justice League and stuff like that. So and besides, we still don't have any word on who's going to be cast as Green Lantern and how they're going to bring that into uniting the Seven. So I guess maybe they're trying to do this yeah, go ahead.
And how are they going to really unite the Seven, too, because it's really going to be the 8, because they're doing the Green Lantern Corps, and they're doing both John Stewart and Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you guys got a lot to figure out there, because you're kind of throwing...
We're DC Comics. Numbers aren't important.
it's like, does anybody get the impression that they just like spitball this shit and like didn't really think any of it through and just said, hey, we'll do this and we'll do that and we'll do this and to hell with how it all works together. We're just gonna shoehorn it in there and because it's gonna make money. God damn it. And the sad thing is they're probably right. It probably all will make money because as annoying as I found Batman versus Superman, it made a shit ton of money. So.
And I will point this out to fans too. If they screw Nightwing up, which they very well could, because it always comes down to casting, and it is something that we are going to talk about at our panel at AllCon. For the fans that listen to our show and everything, we do a panel at AllCon here in Dallas, Texas every year, and this year's panel is how we are going to fix DC Comics, and we will be filming one of the panels for after the convention. But we're going to offer our suggestions on how to fix it, from casting to the proper stories, and for them to get their head out of their ass and actually listen to fans. And with that said, if you screw this up, or you're stuck on really what to do with casting, you know what? We know some people that you can bring along to do Nightwing because they've pretty much already done a really great YouTube series, and we interviewed them a few years ago to help them finish out their fundraising. And with $20,000 or a little bit more than $20,000 that they raised, they did a phenomenal job on a Nightwing series. So right now, if we get our pick of casting, I know there's hot celebrities out there, but Danny Shepard, right now you're at the top of our list just because you did such a great job as Nightwing, and we love you guys.
Oh yeah.
So.
And also, go check out it's Isma Hawk on ISMA Hawk on YouTube. Check out their other stuff too because they do some great versus battles, like they did the Flash versus Quicksilver, and so they're good folks. Go check them out.
All right, moving right along. For the people that brought you the OJ American Crime Story, there is a second season that they're going to be able to hit with some real life events. So they're going to be turning their attention. It's director Michael D. Brown and his people will be turning their attention to Katrina, an American Crime Story, which got announced a couple of weeks ago. Which that will be kind of interesting. I mean, they did a really great job with the OJ miniseries. So I mean, I do have to give Cuba Gooding Jr. props for really nailing OJ. But some interesting casting. Matthew Broderick will be back in a serious role, and he will be. Well, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Matthew Broderick will be playing FEMA director Michael D. Brown. But the people who brought you American Crime Story, that's what they're doing is about FEMA. But yes, he will be playing Michael Brown, the FEMA director. I don't really know how I feel about this. There's only ever been one really great dramatic movie that I thought Matthew Broderick has been fantastic in, and everything else, it's kind of, I don't really buy it as much because you are much more of a comedian. You're Ferris Bueller. You're the producers. But the dramatic movie that I'm talking about is Glory, Yeah. So
it's like when he hits a home run. When he hits a home run, he really knocks it out of the park. But the rest of the time, it's like I'm waiting for you to break out in a lip sync down a parade in Chicago.
Right. So we'll see what happens with this, but we can officially announce there are no more negotiations. Yes, Matt Reeves will be the director of the Batman movie. So they finally figured out how to get all the negotiations done, and he will be taking them. Matt Reeves has done the Planet of the Apes movies, the last two that have come out. And I believe he is directing the third one, War for the Planet of the Apes, that's coming out this summer. So, and this piece of news will really excite Alex. We finally have a release date for the new Mystery Science Theater 3000 on Netflix. So, this is the date you want to take off and call in sick to work, buddy. April 14th, which is on a Friday.
Couldn't be more perfect.
Yeah. But yes. Also, by the way, thank you for releasing. I know they didn't really know about what's going on in Dallas, but we really greatly appreciate you releasing this after the Dallas Film Festival. So we're not trying to watch this and do our job at the Dallas Film Festival. So thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we just got to deal with Iron Fist releasing in the middle of All-Con.
And St. Patrick's. Thank you.
Yeah. What a weekend. We're gonna be so trashed that whole weekend. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway.
Last show we're going to have to watch twice because the first time we're like, yeah, it's great as we're hungover and drinking lots of coffee. And then we'll have to go back.
Yeah.
I don't really remember what happened. Now I'm going to watch it for real. So, all right. And here's some local news. This is kind of cool. But for you horror fans out there, the Dallas, Texas has one of the biggest horror festivals, Texas Frightmare. It's actually the biggest one in Texas, and it rivals a lot of the other ones throughout the country. We haven't really covered it in the past because they haven't always been friendly to media, but we do give shout-outs to it and what's going on, especially, when they get, people like Michael Biehn and, to it and stuff like that. They are going to host the Suspiria reunion. So for fans of the movie Suspiria, you're going to get Dario Argentino, Barbara Magnolfi, and Stefania Cassini, and they're all appearing together for the 40th anniversary of this film. And for horror fans, I mean, this is a great cult classic. So to get these three people together to do a panel, I mean, they don't really do this very often. So if you're in the Dallas, Texas area, at the first weekend of May, and you want to take a break from Cinco de Mayo and all that, and you're a horror fan, then you want to get tickets to Texas Frightmare this year, just if nothing else, for this panel. So I thought that was kind of cool because it actually made national news. It isn't often that some of the local conventions actually make national news. So, I mean, this is a very big deal with the people that they're bringing in. So, all right. Also, in case anybody didn't know, it was announced last week, but Star Wars Rogue One will be hitting DVD digital release. Well, the digital release will be March 24th, and the Blu-ray DVD will be coming out April 4th. So there you go. It's about time to watch that movie again anyway.
Yep.
Okay. Fox renewed the Lethal Weapon series this week. They've been getting really, good positive reviews, and the audience, the ratings are up. So they went and renewed a second season, and which I'm not really kind of surprised. I mean, that's out of the buddy cop stuff and trying to put together, a show based off of a movie. This has been one of the better hits that has come out, and they really did cast it well. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the big thing is they didn't try to be a carbon copy of the movie. They just tried to get two guys who had good chemistry and let it kind of go off in its own direction.
Yeah.
So I think it was the biggest success they had. So, and it has worked to my pleasant surprise, because I thought, oh my God, this is going to be as bad as Rush Hour. So I'm happy to be wrong.
Right?
Thank you very much, Fox, for proving me wrong for once.
Well, and the greatness is you don't necessarily have to watch every episode every week. I mean, it's not they're not introducing like big overall storylines or anything like that. So you can go back and watch episodes, and they're all fun. They don't take themselves too serious. Damon Wayans, really does come into the role of Murtaugh and stuff. I mean, there are times that I listen to his tone in there, and I swear he's going to bust out with Homie D Clown from In Living Color.
Homie, don't play that. Especially when he's talking to his son.
Right.
I
just
swear to God, they got to mouth off, and he just look at him.
Homie, don't play that. Yeah. Please.
They did the sample of my natural gas.
Yeah, I mean, again, great casting in this, and Clayne Crawford, who is from Alabama, really and very believable as a Texas boy and everything. He doesn't take away from Mel Brooks. I mean, not Mel Brooks, but Mel Gibson and how fun he was in those movies. But he makes the character his own.
Priceless Freudian slip.
I know, right? Mel Brooks as Martin Riggs. But anyway,
it's good to be the king.
So
anyway,
yeah. But anyway, Lethal Weapon will be back for season 2. All right. Another gorgeous hottie from the nerd universe that we definitely love, Yvonne Strahovski, who was from Chuck. She will be in Shane Black's Predator movie. She was cast this week. Don't know how much screen time she'll have, but she will be in there. So I like seeing her and stuff. She just absolutely gorgeous. Also, Michelle Rodriguez, most people didn't know this, but it did get announced that she secretly did some filming on Robert Rodriguez's Alita Battle Angel. The production wrapped last week, and they kind of snuck her in under the radar, and she's going to be in the movie for a little bit. So there you go.
I thought you were about to say she got arrested again, but all right, that's cool too.
Could go either way. Well, you know what? They're going to keep cranking out the Fast and the Furious movies, I guess, until the end of time. So, at some point, it's pretty much they might as well just, they might as well just make a TV series.
Don't tempt them.
No. That's pretty much all for movie and TV news. But but we do have some gaming news before we get to reviews and everything. So I'm going to start it off with this one, and I'll let Brendan take it. This is probably the biggest announcement that got released, and I kind of had to announce it because stuff got leaked. So thank you, Internet. But yes, Middle-earth: Shadow of War has been announced, and the sequel will be arriving in August. So
yeah, I know. I'm very, very much excited about this because I was a big fan of Shadows of Mordor, and this one looks. I mean, the gameplay trailer doesn't get here until I think March 8th, but yeah, it looks pretty outstanding. The story looks pretty cool, so I'm very much looking forward to going back and playing this character again. And yeah, I love the fact that they kept it under wraps until it was 6 months out. I hate when games announce like, hey, we're doing this game and we'll see you in 4 years.
Right.
What? Fuck you. Why do you gotta tell me I gotta wait 4 years for this friggin' thing?
Yeah, you released the trailer to For Honor 2 years ago and you made me wait. Damn you.
Oh, how about The Last Guardian? That came out and that was at E3 in like 2011. Here we are 6 years later, finally got the damn game. So, it's just hell. We didn't think that was going to happen for a while.
And by the way, that game didn't even get the wide release that it should have gotten. So, I mean, But I'm just saying, it's nice to have a game developer that, just kept it under wraps, and by the time it finally did get leaked, it's like, oh yeah, and it's right around the corner. You're getting it in a couple of months. So right.
that's pretty awesome.
So, one other quick thing. They did announce this week, too, that Cyborg has been confirmed for Injustice 2. So, another character added to that game. That's another one we're really looking forward to. And between friends and parties at my house and stuff like that, we specialize in doing gaming tournaments, like with Mortal Kombat. We still do Fight Night Round 4 and Street Fighter, things like that. So this is another one that we're very excited to add to the mix of going head-to-head with people. So can't wait for that one to come out. But Brendan, what else is happening in gaming news?
So Overwatch has teased a new character. I'm probably going to destroy this name, but I'm going to try anyway. It's Efe Oladele, and she is this like child who is a robotics whiz. Excuse me. So I'm guessing you get to build a bunch of turrets and kind of use her like an engineer. And so it looks like pretty fun gameplay just because you're playing a kid that blows stuff up. Which, come on, let's face it, we all wanted to blow things up when we were kids. So that looks interesting. The PS4 Pro Boost mode is going to enhance some older games. So if you do get the PS4 Pro and you enable Boost mode, you're going to get a graphics boost to most of your older games. Let's see. Sony revealed their VR sales. So far, they wanted to sell 1 million units in the first year. They've sold 915,000 in the first 4 months. They wanted to do it within the first 6 months, and they've done it in the first 4. And they are actually, the demand is outpacing the supply, so they're hoping to have supply out there. So if you want to get, permanently, seasick on your couch, then go ahead and buy one of these things too. I don't see they're okay. I've played around with a little VR. It's interesting for about 15 minutes until your brain starts going, stop this nonsense, and then you have to take it off. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But like I always say, call me when we get to Star Trek holodecks.
That's our standard.
Cool news about Mass Effect Andromeda. The vast majority of the quests are going to be playable after the main story ends. So if you're like me in a big game with lots of quests but has a very narrow focused main story, I blow through the main story because I want to see what happens. I don't want to do all the side quests and wait. So it's really nice to know that I can blow through the story and then go back and do all the side quests and build up my characters and just do that for fun. Because only a very small percentage are going to be stuff that you can't do again after the main story is over. Also, on that same article, I found out that Natalie Dormer, who's best known as Anne Boleyn in The Tudors, and also from Game of Thrones as the Queen, who was nuked at the end of the last season by the Queen Mother. Excuse me. Quite literally nuked.
Yeah.
She is going to be the voice of Dr. Lexi Tapero in Mass Effect Andromeda, and I just love Natalie Dormer's voice, so this makes me happy. And Elder Scrolls Online, the first gameplay trailer for Morrowind has been released, so they're opening up the area of Morrowind, which is great for old school Elder Scrolls fans. Go back to some of the places where many of us in my age group, excuse me, first encountered the Elder Scrolls with Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. So, I'm sorry, I've got a terrible frog in my throat. So that'll be coming back. That'll be coming out shortly. So, but that's about it for gaming news, and I'm going to mute the line right now so I don't ruin the show. Excuse me.
Okay. One thing too is for you Futurama fans, there will be a Worlds of Tomorrow game coming from Matt Groening. So get a little bit of Futurama back for you in the form of a game. And tonight's big release, if you're waiting until midnight like I am, is Horizon Event Dawn. So yeah, that's the big one this week, and that game looks amazing. And we will be having a review for you shortly as we get to play through it. So, all right, before we get to reviews, I'm going to take a call real quick, and then we'll move right along. Hello, you're on That Nerd Show. What's your name? Hello? Okay. That was the stalker
Ghost in the
call
Machine.
From, yeah. That's Skynet
waiting to hear
checking
a
up on
rattling
us.
sound, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Skynet likes to check up on us from time to time. All right.
Either that or somebody stuck in the Matrix. I don't know.
I'm turning into Alex Jones here.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's going a bit far, man. We were making just joke references. You just threw down the hammer on us. I mean, really, Alex Jones. I mean, come on. He's like the wacko. Anyway, moving on.
I know. He makes the lone gunman look sane. That's how great he is. Anyway, all right, we're going to try this one more time. Hi, you're on That Nerd Show. What's your name?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. How are you?
Hey, we're doing good. Did you have a comment about news? Or yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the Academy Awards. Did you guys put it on?
Well, we're doing our segment on from 9 to 10 in the second half of the show, so we're still doing reviews. But did you have a comment about it? Do you think the Oscars got it right and their awards and stuff?
You know, I actually didn't put it on, so I wanted to ask you about it. Who won the award for Best Movie then?
Well, Moonlight was the actual winner, even though even though La La
there
Land
was some
got
confusion
announced by
on
mistake. Right.
Oh, okay. And who won the award for Best Director?
The guy who did La La Land, which I can't pronounce his last name, Damien something or other. But yeah, but La La Land did get a lot of awards. Yes, like Emma Stone won for Best Actress, but the director got, for that movie got the directing award, which that's a that's a comment that I will be. I have some problems with that, but that's for the later half. Did you? Yeah, go ahead.
Who won the award for Best Actor?
That would have been
Casey
Affleck. Yeah. So.
Okay.
I think you already
brought it up. Okay, and I think you already brought it up. Just want to verify. Who won the award for Best Actress?
Oh, Emma Stone.
Emma Stone.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can go online and see the full list of winners and stuff. But But here's a question for you, real quick. Do you feel like Moonlight was the best picture of the year?
Yeah, I didn't even put that movie on. But who won the award for Best Supporting Actor?
Well, like I said, I mean, we got to move on. But I mean, you could look at the full list of winners online.
Just one more. Who won the award for Best Supporting Actress?
That would have been
Viola Davis.
Yes, thank you. But anyway, thanks for calling in. Like I said, you can check the list of winners on online. Thank you. All right, we have a big, we have a full review of For Honor a couple weeks after it came out. All three of us have had a chance to play a little bit through it, and we figured it'd be nice to actually talk about it in a podcast instead of, giving you a 3,000-word essay on it. Because really, we're all better at just talking about games and stuff. So as we mentioned during the gaming news, and we're making fun of releases and everything, we've been waiting like 2 years for this game to come out since they dropped the trailer at E3 back in 2015. And it all I have to say is, from my standpoint, it's been kind of worth the wait. I don't know if it's necessarily the game of the year. I mean, I think that's too early to tell. But I do think it's absolutely amazing, and it's been the best melee fighter that I have come across in a very long time. Just absolutely brutal with everything. So, and it's not something that I would play with my little nephew, who's 6 years old. But as like an adult game where you can just rampage and kill people and, heads are flying like Braveheart and stuff, it's this game is amazing. So, Alex, what do you think of it so far?
Well, I have to say that the story. I've been playing the story mode through it, and one of the things I really like about it is that they kind of have this ongoing narration as you go through the game. So it does kind of add sort of a unique story element to the game without having to change too much. You've got these little cutscenes, of course, in between each little chapter and location. But what I think it is kind of repetitive in terms of the style of the gameplay. But I think that what that means is that it does get a bit tedious in terms of the learning curve, and getting improved throughout as you kind of learn how to parry and how to use certain attacks and get the right timing down. And even on the easier modes, it is a bit challenging. So even if you're starting out with something easier and you kind of work your way up to medium and hard, and and what they call realistic, which I thought was funny for extra hard.
Right.
It's one of those games where I think you can play and play and play, and you're gonna spend a lot of time fine tuning your skills, so to speak. I think there is a steep learning curve.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring that up. I mean, you obviously have to go through the tutorials first before you get to start picking up on the story mode, which, for people that like to just learn along the way and stuff like that, I think it is very necessary. It doesn't take too long. It really doesn't. But like, the blocking moves and stuff, you need to take, like I said, you need to take the time to be able to learn that. So you're not wasting all of your lives just, trying to kill everybody, because there is some defense that you have to learn, especially when you've got guys, surrounding you, and you can't, unlike a straight hack and slash game where you can just, go berserk on everybody. So it does take some concentration. And Brendan, you were talking about that before the show, about the concentration that's involved in this game.
Yeah, it's so for those of you who don't know me too well, I work 60+ hours a week. So sometimes as much as 70. A few weeks I've even pulled 80 hours. So for me, when I come home and I want a game, I'm into games that offer a little bit more catharsis and aren't, I can almost play on, automatic. And so, 10 years ago, 20 years or 15 years ago, this would have been a game where I would have just like dumped hours and hours into, especially if I was still in the Navy and I had, God loads of time sitting around in the barracks. I would have just I probably could have easily dumped 150 hours into this game. But being 38 years old with 2 jobs, a wife, and 2 dogs, I'm sitting there and I'm trying to play, and I'm just so damn tired from what I'm doing that I'm sitting there, all right, how do I block? All right, I got the blocking down. Now, wait, what was the parry again? And so I found myself getting my ass handed to me, quite frankly. And the game, now, don't get me wrong, this is not me bashing the game. This is me bashing me as a gamer. The game is beautiful. It is a very complex and very well thought out fighting system. Just for someone who doesn't have the time or energy to put into it, I don't think it's a good buy. It's probably not an effective use of your money. You're going to end up disappointed. If you got the time, if you got the energy, if it's something that really interests you, that you really want to get into, I think it's a fantastically well done game. But for someone like me, I like the Diablo games because they're hack and slash and I get some story.
Right.
So I like games that are heavy on story and lighter on complexity, because I'm just looking for something to take me out of my current mindset and escape to some other reality without trying to concentrate too hard. But That being said, it is a very well done game. Although I do want to put this one thing out there, and they did put a larger than normal warning for seizures at the beginning of the game. They really kind of wanted people to know this. And for the first time ever, I actually know somebody who was affected getting seizures by this game. So, and I'm not going to reveal his name because of privacy concerns, but he's a combat veteran with traumatic brain injury. So if you are a veteran out there listening and you do have traumatic brain injury, I'm not saying don't buy it. I'm just saying you probably want to have somebody else in the room with you when you play, just in case you have a seizure. So just a thought, because he had to end up returning the game to GameStop, and I think he put the money towards Horizon Zero Dawn. So he's really hoping that game doesn't cause him the same problems. So just a little FYI out there for those of you who have those injuries.
Well, I could definitely see the possibility of that with people. I mean, it's not, especially with how good the graphics are and realistic as blood spraying all over the place. I mean, it's like I said, or what you brought up about the fighting system. The fighting system is just top rate. I mean, that's the difference between just a straight hack and slash games, which are fun, where you're just killing lots of things. I mean, we love that about the Diablo games, okay? But they are mindless. Yeah. You don't really have to do a whole lot. You're just going around, just chopping around and killing zombies and everything else. This one, there's a story. This one, you have to strategize about how you're going to defeat it. Now, it makes it a little bit easier because you have the target mode and you can lock onto the guy that you're doing first. But if you've got 3 enemies surrounding you, it's like, which one are you going to take out first? And to me, that's the brilliance of the challenge of this game, which makes it a really great RPG game. One other thing that I did want to point out is you talk about time with this game. If you got a lot of time on your hands, you could probably take about 8, 10, maybe 12 hours to really finish out all the campaigns, okay? And that's for serious gamers out there. But if you don't have a whole lot of time and you want to spend like 30 minutes to 45 minutes playing, you have enough time to really kind of get through one of the campaigns, okay, and get your money's worth. And, of course, one of the great things about that is you're playing different characters. I mean, each class has 4 different characters that has different weapons that you get to play. So it's different. Just as soon as you get used to a fighting mode with one character, you're moving on to another character with a completely different weapon that you have to learn all over again. And you are going to die. I mean, it's like a Dark Souls games where you just be prepared to die, and it's going to be a little difficult. But I think that also makes the game worth it in regards to the story mode. Now, one of the biggest complaints I do have is you don't really get to pick which class you wanted to start with. So if you want to start with Samurai, you're not going to get to do it. You have to do Knights, Vikings, then Samurai. You have to work your way up to it. But it is worth it. It really, really, truly is worth it. I think the Knights are a lot more fun. But then again, I mean, the Vikings are just walking around with a battle axe and just, chopping people's heads off, and then especially with the revenge mode. And you do, for gamers out there, don't be so quick about it. Do the revenge mode. Chop the head off, because it will fix your health, and you're going to need that. So, Alex, any other thoughts about For Honor so far?
Well, something else I would add, and this kind of goes along with what Brendan was saying, because I have kind of a similar style of gameplay that I'm attracted to. I prefer something that's more heavy on the story and less on the action. I was a big fan of the QTE stuff way back, when it was kind of a new thing. And I would say that, what I found out on the easy mode compared to normal and the other modes is that it allowed you to skip the strategy sequences and allowed you to just kind of see the story more. You do still go through the levels where you're fighting one-on-one combat with each character, but it skips some of those other sequences where you have to do more of the strategizing. So if you're somebody and I would still say that the gameplay is still challenging enough where you don't feel like it's too easy. So if you're somebody who is wanting to just kind of get through the story and just kind of get through the basics and something a little bit more linear with less time to wait and think in between, I would recommend the easy mode for that. Yeah.
Well, we always judge games, too, by replay value. Is this a game that you will go back and play again? And I definitely think it is, especially with, the story mode. Again, just year or two down the road, in between, starting completely all over. How many games can we say, truly get that replay value that you want to go back and revisit? I definitely think there should be a second game, or especially, with different content, different missions, and more characters. I mean, to me, you've introduced something that's unique and different and challenging, with the hack and slash and the violence and everything you want. But this is a good stepping stone, because I don't think this game is absolutely perfect. I mean, and I'm not going to give it a perfect 10. I think it's a great game and worth $60, absolutely. But this is it going to be the game of the year? I don't think it probably will be. I think it may end up in our top 10 by the end of the year, but it's too early to tell. And Neo came out the week before, which really truly is kind of an RPG game and unique and hard, and then we have Horizon coming out tonight, which looks absolutely amazing. So one other thing I want to point out before we get to our final grades on For Honor is I'm kind of disappointed by the dual mode. I like the idea of a dual mode, but it seems like the dual mode, if you're playing the computer, is almost impossible. I just don't feel like I can, even if there isn't really like an easy mode that you can use to kind of, give yourself an advantage. So that's one of the things that I think that they do need to work on. But, Mortal Kombat and games with that kind of stuff went through those growing pains too. And sometimes you need easy modes to really be able to learn moves and get better at the game. So that's something that definitely has to be worked on in that. The multiplayer stuff, we will talk more about that on another podcast because we haven't really had a chance to have our campaigns together. But if you like a game where you like to drop in with people playing across the net, and I'll use Battlefield as an example of since it came out, 5 months ago. With that game, you can drop in and the battle's still going on. It's not completely won, and then it moves on to another campaign. Okay, so you don't feel like you're coming in at the very end and you're not going to get to do anything. I think sometimes when you drop into certain online play with this game, it's over before it really begins for you. So it's kind of like, what am I going to do? I think the best part of the multiplayer really is going to be putting your own team together and doing your own campaign with your friends. And that's something that we're going to explore more later on with this game. Now that everybody, has their copies and is getting used to it. So I think that probably the brilliant part about the multiplayer will really that's what's going to shine more with this game than playing in different, groups with people across the world. And sometimes that's the way it is, when you're putting together. That's kind of how all the Destiny games have been. It's been more fun to get your team together and start from beginning to end, right, Brendan?
Yeah. I always like playing in those games. You got to play group. You got to have a group of people moving around. It's okay by yourself, but when you're taking on bigger challenges with a group of friends, it's a lot more entertaining.
Right. So I mean that's where I think For Honors it'll be just like all those games where that's the best part of the multiplayer. But overall, I mean, you guys agree. I mean, the game is absolutely beautiful, and the graphics are phenomenal, and it's been, kind of worth the wait with how well, how much they put into making this game, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think for people who are, been looking for a strong melee combat system, I think this is going to be a blueprint for games going forward, much like Assassin's Creed gave birth to the Arkham games and then, of course, Shadows of Mordor. I think you're going to see this spawn a new type of melee game, a new subgenre of melee action. And, could you imagine this type of style put toward lightsaber fighting in Star Wars?
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be pretty outstanding. So, that might be, and then you might put it in a setting where I might say, oh well, shit, now I actually have to put the time into it. But,
right.
So yeah, so I think I think the wait was worth it, and I think your assessment, Marcus, is pretty spot on. It's a very good game. It's not a perfect game, but just for the tech alone that was built for this game, I think it's going to be the springboard to other great things down the road.
Well, the game is already selling a lot and been talked about. So it's by Ubisoft, so it's not like we're not going to get a sequel down the line. So anyway,
sure.
Overall, for a final grade, I personally give it a 9 out of 10. Not perfect, but I think it's great and worthy of a 9. How about you, Alex?
I'm not prepared to go quite as high, but I'm willing to give it an 8.
I know. I'm
in Alex's camp on this one.
Okay. I'm more generous when it comes to this. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with Alex. I give it a solid 8.
Well, and that alone makes it a good game and worth the buy right there. So we'll go with we're going to go with our final grade of 8 out of 10. So, all right, we'll get to other reviews, but we're going to take one more quick call, if everything works right. Hi, welcome to That Nerd Show. What's your name? Hello? Okay.
Hey, do you...
Oh.
Sorry about that, boss.
Sorry about that if you're listening to the show. We didn't hear anything and I cut you off. So if you want to call back in, go ahead and call back in and we'll answer your call. All right. Some quick reviews on TV. There hasn't been any movie TV shows or anything to or any movies to review this week since we already did Logan. But a couple of things that we should go ahead and mention. We didn't really do. There are a few episodes in now, but that show Powerless, which is about a group of guys working for one of the Wayne corporations that makes stuff for superheroes. It's got Alan Tudyk in it, who plays basically Bruce Wayne's cousin. I'm not completely sold on it yet. I love the premise of a girl going to work for a company like this, all inspired and dealing with superheroes that destroy cities and they have to kind of rebuild things and make super tech. Alan Tudyk is absolutely great in it, but he's great in everything. But I just don't feel like the comedy is, that sharp yet. I think they can definitely do better with it. And I don't think the show should necessarily be canceled, but it's not starting off to the greatest of stars that I would like to see with this particular show. And it comes on right after Superstore, so I think that's also might kill some of its chances. I mean, hopefully they'll get enough of an audience to keep going, but I definitely think the writers need to tighten the writing up a little bit and stuff. So anyway, so far it's just okay, but continue watching. We'll see what happens. All right, we're going to try to take a call again and not cut anybody off. All right, welcome to That Nerd Show. We greatly apologize if we cut you off last time. Hello?
Hey, do you know which movie won the award for Best Original Screenplay?
We did, but we're going to refer you to Google on that. It's online. We're not going to go down and list the winners or anything. So, did you have another comment about the Oscars?
Well, do you know which movie won the award for Best Adapted Screenplay?
Okay, thank you very much. Good Lord. Do we have everybody... Are all of our callers not familiar with Google?
I think we're about to hear a reference for butt cheese if that thing is even still going on.
Yeah. We just want to let our listeners know out there we're not going to run down the list of winners because, again, there's the Internet, which you should have on your phones. And if you don't really know the list of winners by now, then, I don't know what to tell you. So, but if you have a comment about the Oscars and you want to talk more about it, the second half of the show, we'll definitely take your call. So, before we get to that part, one more quick review. It came out a couple weeks ago on Netflix. We just haven't had a chance to review it, but David Brent, Life on the Road. And if you don't know who David Brent is, this is Ricky Gervais, his character from the original Office, the BBC version of The Office. And they did a Netflix movie where it's basically his character many years later working for another company and decides to pursue his dream of being a rock and roll or a pop star. So he cashes out his retirement and puts a band together and goes on tour. And if you are a huge fan of The Office, if you like Ricky Gervais in that role, then you will definitely love this series. It's definitely, you have to appreciate the humor for it. If you're not a fan of any of this, then don't bother watching it. But as someone who is a huge fan of the original Office and loves Ricky Gervais, I laughed my butt off. I thought it was very fitting. Not perfect, but definitely like an 8 out of 10. Something worth watching, on Netflix. And it was nice to have David Brent come back and actually throw in music. that was highly offensive and, borderline racist, as we know from his character from The Office. So, definitely worth checking out on Netflix. All right. We have to get to this week's Sign of the Apocalypse. And we actually changed it up a little bit because we're still, and it's related to the Oscars. And no, we're not going to make fun of Warren Beatty until the second half of the show. But I want everybody to realize, yes, this is not us making a joke. This is a real thing. The Oscar award-winning film, Suicide Squad. Yes, it did actually happen. That movie, god-awful movie, that pretty, helped ruin my childhood, received an Oscar.
Yeah, I got nothing.
It should be worth noting that it was for makeup and hairstyling, and the only other movies that were nominated in that category were A Man Called Ove, or Ove, and Star Trek Beyond.
Well, yeah, but I would have given it to Star Trek Beyond because it's Star Trek, and at least, even if you're not a huge fan of like the reboot, then it was still a good movie. It was worth seeing, not the Suicide Squad, whereas they seriously screwed up, and which really they should have. We've complained about the Suicide Squad movie. They really should have just made it the Harley Quinn movie, but yeah, it won an Oscar. I mean, I guess that's the one little victory that Warner Brothers can have after screwing everything up. Is they have one of their superhero movies that has won an Oscar. So, and I don't know for sure if Marvel even has that. Has any of the Marvel movies won an Oscar for anything? Somebody should probably look at.
I'm sure they have for effects or sound editing or something like that.
But it's almost like winning the award by default. But I guess it's you get to say
we should take some time to find out the worst movies to ever win Oscars. That'd be kind of an interesting list, I think.
Yeah,
that would be a great project. Because it does go into our theme of do the Oscars get it right? Do they get it wrong? It's a big debate and stuff.
Tim Burton's Batman's won some Oscars. The original won Best Art Direction and Set Decoration. Batman Returns won Best Effects, Visual Effects, Best Makeup. So, yeah.
Well, and those were warranted. Those were, good movies. Not Batman Returns wasn't as good as the first one, but, from a comic book style movie, yeah, I can definitely see that. It's just
Batman Begins got Best Achievement in Cinematography. That I could see. Yeah,
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I was right. But Iron Man got sound editing.
Oh, okay. Okay. I don't even know what that award is for. Sound editing. We know how to put everything together.
And Iron Man 2 won Visual Effects, so there you go. As did the Avengers. As did Iron Man 3. I'm noticing a theme here.
Yeah,
okay. Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Right, okay. Totally get that. But the award for sound editing, it's almost like saying, this is the award for the ultimate mixtape, which will give you an Oscar.
Well, they have one for sound mixing, too.
Well, again.
So what's the difference? We need to get like a tech person on the show to explain us the difference between sound editing and sound mixing.
Why?
Well,
why
it
is
used to be called sound design. I think they changed it to sound editing, and so I think the editing part is what you're creating, and then the mixing part is sort of what you're putting together at the end. So you've got sort of the product that you're putting together, and then you have the finished product. So.
Yeah. Well. All right. I think it's just to add another 30 minutes to the show, but whatever. I mean, we're not knocking the people that put together scores and mix everything. We're not. I mean, we obviously can't do that job, okay? But as for, movies winning an Oscar for something like that, I mean, score I get. I mean, because I think pretty much anything John Williams does should always win, an Oscar because he's John Williams. But anyway, but yes, this week's Son of the Apocalypse, the Suicide Squad movie, did win an Oscar, and we can say Oscar award-winning Suicide Squad. Okay, all right. Let's move right along and start talking about the Oscars. And again, we do want to reiterate, you can call into our show, 646-564-9558. But again, we're not going to read the list of winners to you because there's the entire internet that you can go to. But so Alex and I kind of do this every year where we text each other during the Oscars. Like last year, we were laughing at Morgan Freeman and his kind of shocker about, Spotlight, Best Picture. Not that Spotlight didn't deserve to win. It was just funny to see his expression, that it was going to be this movie. But this year's Oscars was very bizarre at the end. So we're definitely going to make fun of that a little bit. I guess it wouldn't be the Oscars unless you had some controversy. I don't know. But if you don't know the story, Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty were presenting. Now, the reason they were presenting together is it's the 50th anniversary of the Bonnie and Clyde movie, which they starred in. Anyway, there was a mix-up on the envelopes. He read the envelope saying that La La Land won, and all the people were up on stage starting to do acceptance speeches, but then they had, I guess, Moonlight, they had that up on the screen, and then they finally realized the gaffe in there, and in the middle of the acceptance speeches, the director of Moonlight, or La La Land or whatever was like, well, we've got this wrong. In Moonlight, you actually won. No, this is not a joke. And they kept having to reiterate that. So, some controversy on there.
Well,
regardless of... I was just going to say,
Yeah.
regardless of who won or who lost, I think we can all agree that last night's big winner was Steve Harvey.
Right?
Because he's like,
yeah. Now,
we just got a reference from Jimmy Kimmel, and he had nothing to do with it. That's pretty amazing. I agree.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. The best tweet I saw about the ending of the Oscars as everybody's going apeshit, like, what? Was M. Night Shyamalan took credit for the ending. I'm like, okay. Good job there. You need a surprise twist.
That'd be the best thing he
got
wrote
that.
in 20 years.
Hey, I'm telling you, that's why Split was this.
Yeah.
That's why Split ended up in this week's Son of the Apocalypse. It was like, oh my God, you wrote an amazing movie. So, all right, we're going to take a caller, and again, we want to reiterate, we will not list the winners to you. Yeah, you can go to the internet. So, all right, we're going to take a call and see if there's any comments about the Oscars. Welcome to That Nerd Show. What's your name?
Hey, which movie won the award for Best Animated Feature Film?
So there's this entire thing called the internet, which you can go on and see the entire list of winners. Do you know how to operate Google? I'm just curious. Do you know how to operate
Google? The Bridge Troll.
So, all right. That was fun.
Back to the
Thank
bridge.
You.
Who gave you permission to come out from under your bridge?
All right.
I have no time nor patience for trolls.
God. Well, it's been a while since we've had some, but thank you so much for thinking of us. Anyway, all right, we're going to start with the obvious question, and I'll start with you, Alex. Do you feel like Moonlight is the best picture of the year?
I would say about 4 months ago, I would have said yes, based on the movies that I thought were going to be up for Best Picture. Obviously, there were other movies that I really liked throughout the year that I thought were as good or better. Maybe not better, but were as good. And just didn't get the same kind of notoriety or consideration. But once I did have a chance to see Arrival, which came a bit later, I sort of changed my mind on what was my personal favorite. But all along the way, I just like I think the vast majority of people who were paying attention to the Oscars was that La La Land was going to be the winner. It's only the third time in Oscar history that a film has been nominated for 14 Oscars, and each of the other two times that film did win Best Picture, and that was All About Eve in, I think, 1952, or maybe I'm getting the year wrong on that, and then, of course, Titanic in 1997.
Right.
So it wasn't a big surprise when Warren Beatty, or actually, Faye Dunaway actually said La La Land. Oh, no big surprise. Okay, so we're just moving on. And I think a lot of people did kind of flip the channel, thinking that was it, and they wanted to go ahead and get to bed because it was late. And it's like, this is something I was saying, and I think, Brendan, you'll appreciate this as a Patriots fan. The Oscars are now taking a page out of the playbook of the Super Bowl and the Patriots Super Bowl. Do not turn off the game before it's over, because it may not be over yet.
Right.
That's one way to keep people tuned in. I'll say this. I think the Oscars got it right because La La Land didn't win. And look, I know people loved La La Land and it got a shit ton of nominations, and I didn't think it was bad, but and it was a cutesy musical, but I mean that's kind of all it was to me. I did jump online and okay, I didn't say that on the radio, but I watched it, and it was okay, but like I just didn't get. I mean, to me, you might as well have called it La La Bland. I mean, I love musicals, and I was just not. I don't know. Maybe because everybody built it up so much, like, oh my God, it's the greatest musical ever, and I was just like,
well,
really?
There were at least 4 movies out of those 9 nominated that I thought were better than La La Land. So
the
fact
agree.
that I thought half of the movies were better than that, I mean, it seems to me like it was a movie by Hollywood for Hollywood about Hollywood. So I mean, it wasn't relatable to that
Hollywood
many people.
on being Hollywood.
Right.
and like here's my list. I would like to thank the Golden Globes for having the balls to nominate Deadpool as Best Picture. Because look, Deadpool wasn't Best Picture. I'm not going to make the argument that it was, but I would like to make the argument that I appreciate that the Golden Globes had the balls and the moxie to at least nominate it for what it was, for the fact that it was a project of love that was almost basically a large budget independent movie, which blew everybody's expectations out of the water, and it was 10 times better than everybody thought it was going to be. I think
thought it was one of the best
Academy
movies of the year, though. So I mean,
I
think it was
from a nerd. From a nerd standpoint, it is Best Picture. I mean, it was the best comic book movie of the year. You literally fell out of your seat at the press screening, which was great. Not that Rogue One wasn't a great movie, or definitely isn't worthy of like being a nerd Best Picture and how we loved it. But Deadpool was really the best nerd movie. I mean, there was so much love put into that movie for what Deadpool should be. So getting a nomination, absolutely, at least.
And you know what? The Academy talks about how they want it. They've had ratings dropping off for years. You wanted to get an influx of ratings, and a whole bunch of people that usually never watch the Oscars. You nominate Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds and and put them up for visual effects and stuff, and all of a sudden you've got an entire group of people that are watching the Oscars that never would have otherwise. Hell, I would have tuned in.
Well, I'm going to say this about La La Land. I liked the movie. I thought it was a beautiful movie, definitely deserving of awards for design and stuff like that. And it's a nice throwback to the old classic musicals of Hollywood. But I'll equate this. For every argument there is about The Force Awakens being too much of an homage to how Star Wars should be, you have to call out La La Land for being the same goddamn thing for Hollywood musicals. Because that's what it is. It's not original. We've seen shit like this before. I have nothing against Emma Stone or Ryan Gosling, okay? And I very much love the ending that they didn't necessarily get together. Spoiler alert. But the way that ended, following their dreams, the music, yes, great date movie. But does it stand up to every other film that was nominated? I feel like pretty much every other movie would have been a better Best Picture than La La Land, and for many reasons. I've had this discussion with Alex, for 6 months about. I've had this discussion with Alex about about Moonlight. I think Moonlight's an incredible film. I do. Very unique, very well acted. I think Mahershala Ali definitely deserved an Oscar. He's a great actor. We've loved him in things that he's been in.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think, in my mind, it's the Best Picture. I think it's the PC Best Picture because it hits the trifecta of everything that Hollywood looks for. You got, poor black teen, gay, dysfunctional family. It's like, okay, to me, it's like Crash, or, it's going to make everything. It's going to make everybody feel good. But I think, any other film, even beyond that, could have been Best Picture. Arrival was unique in its own perspective of how you develop a language to communicate. Great sci-fi movie. Hidden Figures, if you really want the PC movie, should have been Best Picture for the simple fact of how many people actually know about Katherine Johnson. They never taught about her when I was in school. So I had to go look a lot of stuff up about the NASA program, and I know a lot about the NASA program. And I didn't realize that. And that was inspirational, funny, great cast, and just, could bring tears to your eyes. So, and one of the best roles that Kevin Costner has ever done. And if you want a gritty movie, Hell or High Water was great. And, of course, my pick for Best Picture, which I think should have been Lion, because I did walk out of there crying, like I had just seen Life is Beautiful or, Brian's song again. But it's just like, look, make your cutesy movies. Fine. Have them make lots of money. Let them get some awards. But just because it's an homage to old Hollywood doesn't mean that it deserves an Academy Award. Let's call it out for what it really is. And let's be honest that if you're talking about classic musicals, there's a lot of classical musicals that are better than La La Land. Guys and Dolls, West Side Story, all that jazz. My personal favorite, Paint Your Wagon, just because it is Lee Marvin and Clint Eastwood singing. It's a truly guy musical. And, by the way, little known fact, Lee Marvin actually was on the top, 20 chart list for the song from Gone with the Paint Your Wagon. Yeah, Lee Marvin song was, on the top charts for music in 1969. But, yeah, like I said, it's just... Let's just be honest about what it is. So, all right. So we're gonna take a call, and we're gonna hope it's an actual legitimate call, and if it's not, we're gonna hang up on you quickly. So we'll try this again. Welcome to that Nerd Show. What's your name?
Who won the award for Best Documentary Feature?
Woohoo!
Okay, so I think we're done with calls now. So
it was amusing. It was kind of amusing the first couple of calls, but it's pretty much run its course. Yeah. You're done with the joke. So, I was having this discussion with someone at the pub about the Oscars being too PC and being too political. Like you have to placate to the times. And I think there's a double-edged sword about that, and it's not. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm, being racist or anything with what I say on this. That's not. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have politically motivated films that open our eyes to stuff or introduce us to a story we didn't know and stuff. Schindler's List. I don't think many people knew about Oscar Schindler before that movie. But I think that there's a thing about Hollywood where we kind of either play it too safe or we give out an award to appease everybody when there are better stories.
And to me, I think Moonlight is just another shining example of that. Not to take away from how great the film is. Very unique and all that. And I'm not, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's Best Picture, but I think it's deserving of that award. Does that make sense, guys?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, before I get trolled by the NCAAP and everybody else calling me out for being a racist, I felt like that with like Slumdog Millionaire too, because there had never been an Indian borderline Bollywood movie that had ever won Best Picture, and not that it wasn't a good film, but is it really worth that caliber? There's so many times that the Oscars, get it wrong, and I've been arguing about this till for 20 years now, that how dare you give Best Picture to Shakespeare in Love when it's a shit film, and I don't care about the cast and the satire and blah blah blah. That Saving Private Ryan is so much of a better film,
Or how about they gave it to some movie nobody had ever heard of just because they didn't want to have to give it to Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. They gave it to what? That was the year they gave it to Crash, right?
No, it was some literally no name foreign film that nobody had ever heard of.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'll look it up.
See, so forgetful we can't remember.
But yeah, something I've been talking about with different people who I talk film with outside of this circle, also within the circle, but outside the circle as well, is that it's gotten to a point where with these movies, the ones that are up for the awards, the reason why a lot of people aren't tuning in is because it's not going to movies that people have heard of and have actually gone out and seen, that have made a big splash with marketing and the big box office draws and so forth. And the movies that are up for the awards now are catering to a much smaller group, and it's catering to the people who really, really pay attention to film in general, or actually could relate to what was going on in the movie. And I feel like that's really hurt the Academy Awards, and I think that's it's not going to hurt the movie industry as a whole, because the movies that make the big box office draws are still going to be there. But if the award for these award ceremonies, and I feel like it really did change in 1998 when Shakespeare in Love won, and they broke tradition with the best director winning for one film and then not getting Best Picture. And really, I feel like since then it's kind of been uneven for the last 17, 18 years in terms of what you expect to win, what's popular, what movies people have gone to see versus movies that nobody's heard of that are collecting all the awards.
Right. No, I agree. But with that stance too, I mean, you should also, if you're trying to widen the range of like movies and stuff like that, then we should. It goes back to a speech in a movie that Simon Pegg made, the one How to Win Friends and Alienate People, where they're talking about like Best Picture, and he goes, well, how about Con Air? It has everything: comedy, action, John Cusack for the gays. And they're all looking at her like, what are you talking about? That's like the worst movie ever. By the way, that movie is 20 years old now, but at the same time, think about it. How many movies literally have everything? Has a good point, has action, comedy, there's those actors that you really like. It doesn't have to be a great story that's meaningful and all that. During film festival season, we see so many independent films that they're art films. They're never going to really be seen for a wide audience. It's not that they're not worth being seen or talked about. And like I'm in a film class, and there's plenty of films that I could talk about all day long as why this is great and yada, yada, yada. But sorry, losing my train of thought there. why not appreciate the movies that do have that kind of wide range appeal and that everybody is going to love for what it is, and that you're going to go back and watch again? Why is it? Are you going to go back and watch Moonlight again, Alex?
I don't plan on it anytime soon.
Yeah, to me, that's like a one-timer. I feel like I've gotten everything out of it. Like 12 Years a Slave, which won Best Picture, and I'm not saying that didn't have a great cast, but I didn't need that movie to tell me that slavery was bad. You know why I didn't need that movie to tell me that slavery was bad? Because I'm old enough to remember when Roots fucking came on TV. And if you've watched Roots... you got it. You
remake
knew.
Roots too, so
right. Never watched it, but they did actually have the original Roots on one of the cable channels, and I watched a couple of episodes. But I'm just saying, it's just don't.
And I can't understand.
Go ahead.
I can't understand why that. I mean, then we'll kind of go a little off the beaten track, but I can't understand why that movie ends up winning Best Picture, but Lee Daniels' The Butler, which had tackled a lot of the same subject. It wasn't the same time period.
Right.
I understand that. But that had what you wanted. It had the great all-star cast. It had great technical, it was well made, and it did attract, pretty good audience in terms of who went and saw it. I don't think there really weren't a lot of people, at least here in the United States, that actually saw 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah. I mean, it was not a huge hit at the box office. I think people went and saw it once because it was like the thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
It obviously brought attention to a story that most people didn't know. But to me, it was kind of the safe movie. And I feel like in a lot of ways the Dallas Buyers Club should have won Best Picture for two reasons. One, you're dealing with a disease that didn't just affect homosexuals; it affected a lot of people, and those people had to fight harder. Like if you were a straight man getting caught with HIV, you automatically got labeled homosexual. When we didn't know anything about the disease, and of course Reagan and the government weren't helping, and the FDA, as they pointed out in the movie, but it was a very human story. Especially when you're dealing with a redneck homophobic asshole who finds his humanity, through a disease and stuff that.
It wasn't socially acceptable for a man to have HIV until Magic Johnson came out being public with HIV.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? And that's a good point. That's a very good point.
So, what heterosexual men had to go through in the 80s, you're right. They instantly became vilified. Granted, homosexual people went through the same thing, and they were being vilified for just being who they are, which is no less repugnant. But, to be vilified based off of something you're not is just as bad. And, so that tackled a lot of issues in that movie. It was a really, really well done movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's a movie that I can watch over and over just because of the performances, and Jared Leto, truly just great actor all around, being able to, disguise himself in different roles, but that movie wasn't about race or anything like that. It didn't show race related. It was very much a human story, and that's what I think made that a better picture. I also take offense that Titanic won Best Picture. Who the fuck cares about a love story in Titanic and all that? Did you not see Amistad? I mean, if you're going to have a movie about race, and again, another one that had such an awesome cast, so it's
better music too. I'll give it that also.
Right, great score. Still love listening to it. Amistad was on cable a couple months ago, and I caught it like literally right at the beginning. It's like I got to watch this, and and you hit all the you hit race relations, you hit a great courtroom drama, politics, great cast. So it's like this is my big argument about about the Oscars. When they do get it wrong, and don't truly, look at a film for what it really is. Okay, so with that said, moving right along and everything. Now, I mean, you picked Arrival to be your best picture, right? That's what you, Alex.
That was what I picked for what I would want to win. The choice for what I thought would win was La La Land.
Right. Brendan, did you have one that you really liked for best picture?
Honestly, I really didn't. I was just hoping that La La Land wouldn't. There was not one. There was not one to me that kind of separated themselves amongst the rest. So there wasn't one where I was like, man, if that one doesn't win, I'll be so pissed. It was just the one where if that one does win, I'll be so pissed. So like the rest of them, I thought were all worthy, but I didn't think there was no one clear cut. Man, this one has to win. So to me, I was just sitting there kind of like, all right, let's see who wins. I didn't really have a dog in the fight, so to speak.
I mean, I thought they were all, great films. I mean, worthy to be nominated.
Yeah.
But at the same time too. I mean, now the one thing I will say about Race, and I'll end the discussion on that. If you want to talk about race and all that, look at the documentary movies that came out. You had one, I Am Your Negro, and you had 13th, a Netflix documentary, and then you had, the one OJ, Made in America. All of them, I mean, it was pretty much, the documentary series was pretty much about race in America with everything that's been happening over the past year, and rightly so. And I'm not saying all those films aren't good, okay? And the OJ series was very interesting. I finally had a chance to watch it, but it's also like, 6 hour. It's a 6-hour documentary about his life and everything, and covers a lot of things that we really already knew about O.J. Simpson, that we've known since all that really came out about his life and all that since, the original trial. The one that I picked that I think was very deserving of that award was 13th. But it's not widely known because it's a Netflix movie. Well, it didn't play in the theaters or anything like that, but what that whole film was really about was talking about the aftermath of the 13th Amendment, once we freed the slaves, but all of the loopholes that, people got around to basically enslave black people again. With sharecropping laws. And the one thing that doesn't get pointed out about the 13th Amendment, if you're talking politics, is it ends indentured servitude and slavery. Okay? What it doesn't say is that you can't use, that if you commit a crime, you can be enslaved and can be used for labor. There's no stipulation that says that, which we've always done. It's cheap manual labor, and it doesn't violate slavery at all because you don't really have any rights. So, of course, led to, finding a way to get black people in prison during the later part of the 19th century, chain gangs using them for labor, using prison labor throughout the 20th century, and then, of course, talking about mandatory minimums for nonviolent crimes and selling drugs and how many large corporations get to use prison labor, contract out, and then you're dealing with for-profit prisons and all that. I thought that documentary was more poignant about how society really works, and it had nothing to do with conservative or liberal, because I know conservatives and liberals where we all agree about how the system is fucked up. And what they did to point that out and to give you a history lesson, it went beyond race. It went beyond, it showed you about a system of people who want to enslave poor people is really what it came down to. And it opened our eyes. And Brendan and I will talk about this issue and we've had arguments with other people that slavery isn't owned by black people because there were plenty of Irish that were shipped over here, Yeah,
in a period of, for those who don't know, in a 10-year period, the country of England, through indentured servitude, slavery, and murder, reduced the population of Ireland by 2/3, from 1.5 million to 500,000.
Yeah.
That was in 10 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and by the way, it's slavery still goes on around the world today, and most people don't like to talk about it. But you know, one of the biggest groups of slaves, regardless of color, is young women, because they were all taken, you know, as sex slaves all over the world. So, you know, and it's not about skin color. It's about people with money exerting power over people who don't have it.
Exactly. And one of the things that the 13th documentary really did kind of point out too is even they were pointing out that yes, slavery was an issue of the Civil War, but how it tied into an economic issue about the North basically taking away your entire labor force through a proclamation, or putting restrictions on what you can use without easing into it and finding a different solution, which basically decimated the South and led to all sorts of crap happening and Jim Crow laws rising up after the Civil War and during Reconstruction. Because a lot of these people, you know, I mean, they didn't really leave. That was their home too. They were just trying to have a fair shake in that world, okay? But my whole point about the documentary thing is it being more poignant. I mean, as a documentary compared to everything else, and not getting into the controversy of Black Lives Matter and everything else that's out there. So, all right, we'll try this again.
Really?
Welcome to that nerd show. Would you like to make a comment about the Oscars?
Hey, fellas, thank you very much for taking my call. How are you?
Doing good.
Good, and you?
Did you have a comment about the Oscars?
I did. I just, first of all, I wanted to tell you have a great program. I very much appreciate when you're going into movies and going into topics about slavery and other things that hurt mankind. And I think that prank callers calling me is just a moron, so don't take them seriously. You have a great program, as you always do.
Well, we never take the trolls seriously.
You.
We just laugh it off. But thank you.
Anyway, I called just to find out. Do you know who won the award for best documentary?
Wow. But here's the important thing: we have a great show. The trolls think we have a great show. That's what we took away from that call, everybody. Okay. Getting down to who won, best actor, best female supporting, and all that. I've already mentioned that I thought, Mr. Ali was very deserving of the best supporting actor and everything. You, Alex, you picked Casey Affleck for Manchester. I'm sorry. I was about to. Thank you. I was actually about to say Manchester.
I made the same mistake. I made the same mistake yesterday and started to say Manchester United. So I'm right there with you.
As a Liverpool fan, I've got to push those evil thoughts out of my mind. Oh Lord! But you picked him to win the award, didn't you?
I did. That was one of those. It was one of the few awards where I was pretty much certain that was going to be the winner. And I knew that there was some talk about, Denzel might take this, for the third time, second time as the lead actor. But, when I saw Fences, right off the bat, what I thought was that it just felt way too theatrical. They were trying to be faithful to the play, and I get that, but it didn't feel enough like a movie to me. It felt way too much like it was very stagey, and a lot of the performances were very over the top. Michael T. Williamson, to me, was really irritating in that character, in that role for some reason. But the one thing I thought about was that, I thought as good as Denzel was, I was thinking, I really liked Viola Davis's performance better. And I thought, she is going to be the favorite and will most likely win. And what I thought is if she's the winner, I don't see how Denzel can win, because the thing they always say about supporting actors when they win is they've stolen the show. well, if she's stealing the show, how can Denzel win? And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to see Manchester by the Sea. And so I did. And it kind of, in the early parts of the movie, it kind of made me think of like a Wes Anderson movie, but it got a lot more serious, and it slowed down quite a bit as it went on. But I thought, Casey Affleck is in almost every scene in this movie, and he's not necessarily saying a lot, but he really seemed to put it in the time for that character and for that role. And it seems to me whenever somebody shows that they have really committed to that role, and you can see the hard work and it's paid off for such a great performance, that's usually who it's going to go to. And so I saw Fences and I saw Manchester, and I thought, Casey Affleck, if he doesn't win, that's going to be pretty surprising for me at least. And so those were the two, above all the other acting performances. I thought Viola Davis and Casey Affleck are the ones that I think are the surest bet. So.
Brendan, were you surprised that he won it?
Only slightly because of the controversy surrounding him right now with his, alleged sexual assault. But not really terribly, no. It's funny because, the Hollywood and the Academy can forgive almost anything if they think you're worth it and if they like you. You're talking about the same people that will vilify anybody who's accused of being a pedophile unless it's somebody they really like, Roman Polanski. And then they give him a standing ovation. So it was like I could see how the negative. I at first I thought, man, he's not going to get this because of this accusation. And then I realized, oh wait, yes he is. Because to them there is no such thing as bad publicity, and if they like you, it doesn't matter what you've done.
He's an Affleck. The Afflecks have power right now. I mean, they're a big name in Hollywood at this point. So
and they're power brokers in Hollywood. So they're kind of like what's her face, Jodie Foster. It's not just that she's an actress; she's an actual power broker. She can, if she wants a role, she gets the role. She just goes in and says, "I want that one." She doesn't audition. So it's at first, I thought, man, he's not going to. And then the more I thought about it, man, I was like, man, he's got this wrapped up. He's going to win. They want him to win, so he's going to win. That's just that. It's that simple.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. And it's not that I didn't dislike the movie. I mean, I did. I thought it was good, but not my personal favorite. It's not what I really expected. I expected it to be a lot more because of kind of the hype behind it. I mean, the marketing people behind this movie really hyped it up as being this great independent film and story, and I'm like, I don't really know that. I think there's, the more hype you give it, the more of a letdown it's always going to be. Lion wasn't hyped up at all. It was just, go discover it. We missed our chance to see it at the Lone Star Film Festival because we were doing everything else and was disappointed by that. But when I finally did the screening, it was like, wow, this is an incredible film. I love Dev Patel anyway. I mean, I mostly love him from The Newsroom. But sad, again, cried. And I would tell people, if you don't walk out of that movie crying, you're not human. You are a Terminator. Or at least trying to hide your tears. So it's that was a surprising movie more than anything else. I mean, just, again, getting back to how good it is. And he wasn't really my pick. I think he does deserve the award. Yes, his performance was really good and whatnot, but I thought Viggo Mortensen should have won it from Captain Fantastic. I loved that movie. I mean, I loved everybody in that movie. I thought it was great, but Viggo Mortensen, to me, has always picked smart roles. When he got to the position that he could pick smart roles and do things that challenged him as an actor, especially in the last 15 years, and I think Lord of the Rings really afforded him to do that, even though he was really, picking different roles, good roles before Lord of the Rings. I just thought that was such a really interesting, unique story that Well, it's Viggo Mortensen. I mean, is there really a bad movie that he's ever done? So, well, maybe that
he was in G.I. Jane.
Yeah, there is that.
What, you guys don't like G.I.
as a Navy guy, I didn't like G.I. Jane because it introduced that hoo-yah nonsense. I don't know where the hell that came from, but it sounds like a drunk donkey. When I was in the Navy, we always did the same as the Marine Corps. We did oorah. I will always do oorah till the day I die. This hoo-yah shit, hoo-yah, sounds like a drunken donkey. I don't get it.
Yeah, so, that's you guys trying to be Army. I mean, that's an Army thing. I thought he was great in G.I. Jane. I mean, I love the fact that he was reading poetry and everything. But Eastern Promises, that's a great movie. So, anyway, Emma Stone, that was just a surprising. I mean, that wasn't really surprising at all. I figure either her or Ryan Gosling would have gotten the award. But she wasn't my pick either. I thought Ruth Negga should have gotten the award for Loving. Loving was an incredible film. That one, to me, if you're going to have a politically motivated film with the climate, that one should have been it right there. So, based on a true story too, and I don't think most people actually know that story. But anyway. Also, here's a question. As much as we love Meryl Streep, shouldn't we just have a separate category for her? Like every time she does a role, here's your award for doing something great. It's like getting a gold star at this point.
I've been saying for the last few years, they might as well just set aside one of the spots for Best Actress for Meryl Streep and just nominate 5 other women, or 4 other, whatever, because whatever movie she does, she's going to get a nominee and a nomination. It's just, this is the perfect example of the Hollywood. I don't even know how to put this into words without doing it justice. They are totally in love with this woman. Period. I mean, if there were another way for me to expound on that, I'm not as quick-witted as Brendan is. But that, to me, I'm just tired of it.
We know. Go ahead.
Well, like I said earlier, Hollywood is, and now granted it's boys and girls, but it's the oldest of the old boys clubs. And if you're in, you're in, and if you're not, you're not. And she's in. So she's one of the core central members. I think the best. It's not so much love. I think the correct word would be celebrate or venerate her. She's on a pillar, and they're all plebes to her greatness. Is how they treat her. And sometimes she's worth it, and sometimes not so much. And sometimes you just wish you would, act, and that's about it. Mm-hmm. But it really just comes down to, like I said, if you're in with these people, then you're in, and if you're out, then you might as well get in the boat with Fredo because you're dead to them.
One of the great things about Ricky Gervais is I loved how they did that show Extras on HBO, and then they did the movie that kind of ended it when his character became famous and got a big head and all that. But the very first episode, which I thought set the tone for that show, says everything about Hollywood. It was such the perfect satire, especially for the for the Oscars, and it had Kate Winslet in it, and they were extras in the movie she was doing she was playing Mother Teresa. And they're off at craft services, and they're having this conversation about, there's like certain movies that are just automatically going to, get you an Oscar nod and probably win. If you do stuff about slavery or the Holocaust, or, things like that. Right. So, I have to do something about a saint, and the irony is, like the next year, or 2 years later, she wins an Oscar for a character based on the Holocaust. Not that she wasn't deserving, But it's like you made fun of that issue, you called them out on their horse shit, and then they just prove you right by giving you the Oscar for that movie. And that's
hey, let me ask you guys. Let me ask you something that surprised me. As I've been sitting here talking about, how much it's a club, and if you're in, you're in. Anybody else shocked that Scorsese got snubbed? Like he didn't even get nominated.
Silence.
Oh, for Silence.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. You know what? That is. I hadn't really thought about that with everything else that was going on, and
it seemed to have really bad timing when it was released. That was one thing I noticed.
Well, too,
right.
Yeah, I mean, he usually at least gets a nomination, but I think part of what doomed Silence, not the performances, not how good it was. It's an incredible film, but it's also very long. There's parts where it drags, and it's like you spent 40, 50 extra minutes on that film than what was necessary to really do that story. But it's very much in the vein of The Mission, great 80s movie, which had Liam Neeson, by the way. Yeah. And that, I mean, obviously if you're Catholic, you get that movie, but it's just an incredible piece of filmmaking. Cinematography is great. You got Robert De Niro, Jeremy Irons, Liam Neeson's in it, and very, very underrated film about honor and faith and stuff. And a lot of people forget that, but that's what Silence reminded me of. But it really hit that core with those themes again. Dealing with faith and just great performances. But yeah, I figured he would have at least gotten a nod for that. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess we had to have too many movies about race issues that needed to get nominated. But I'm just saying. I mean, it's. I hate to.
That's true.
Yeah, and I hate to say things like that because it does make me sound like a redneck asshole. But at the same time, that's what we do on this show. We call you out on your bullshit. If it's bad, it's bad. If it's not, we'll praise it and tell everybody about it. So.
Well, I was talking with a friend just today, and he was saying something that I said yesterday about Hollywood taking itself too seriously. And one of the things I pointed out was Denzel Washington, who very recently in an interview was saying, "Hey, I'm just an actor. I make movies. This is what I do." And saying, "Why don't you talk to people who are serving overseas and ask them how tough their job is?" So, at least one guy is saying it.
Well, but Denzel Washington too has one of the great things about him is he knows what his job is. He loves doing his stuff. Okay, picks good roles. But is also a very private person. And I don't think a lot of people realize about how religious he really is. Reads his Bible every day. His father was a minister, been married to the same woman for almost 40 years. It's very much a family person. He goes, he does his job, Yep. And that's it. He's just an actor, even though he has made really great movies that need to be talked about and raise issues and stuff. But you mentioned Fences earlier. I don't disagree about that film. It was a good film, but that's the power of that story really is the stage. I'm not saying the film shouldn't be watched, but sometimes when you adapt a play into a movie, you lose the luster of the performances. A good example, it's like when they take musicals that are better seen live and try to make them into a movie. It's nothing against the Phantom of the Opera movie. It was an okay movie, but you don't get the full experience until you see something like that live. So.
Even Les Miserables, which was a good attempt, was still, it's still inferior to the stage. So.
Oh yeah, and it's not like everybody didn't get emotional during the movie. Very well cast. I love how they did all the live singing, and Anne Hathaway was spot on. I love the fact that
Yeah.
she's the same thing that, sang the same song that made her mother famous. But you're right. It'll never compete. Now, here's one thing. Brendan, you asked me about this a few months ago. I don't think we ever really got to do a screening, but did you and your wife go? You guys went and saw Kubo and the Two Strings, right?
We never did get a chance to, no. I still want to see it. Yeah, I really do. But I know it didn't win, although I will say that my wife has watched Zootopia numerous times, and she did love it, so it is deserving. Because and much like us, if something is crap, she will let you know. She is not afraid. She is not afraid to say, "I can't believe I just wasted 2 hours watching that nonsense." But she really enjoyed Zootopia, and just thought it was extremely funny and well done. So, and there was actually a pretty good group of animated features this year. Like, I wouldn't have been completely upset if any of them won. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of disappointed Moana didn't win for Best Song, because the writer of the song would have been the youngest person to win an Emmy, a Tony, an Oscar, and I think there's a Golden Globe. So that would have been really cool for him to win, and the song was a pretty decent song too. So I was a little disappointed in that. That was kind of one I was pulling for, just because it's nice to see, like, when you got somebody, you equate it to sports or something, when you're watching somebody, really great in sports, and people really have a hard time, realizing how great it is. I mean, the guy's not even 30 yet, and he's already won a Emmy, a Golden Globe, and a Tony. Give him the damn Oscar. He's earned it. So that's just my thought.
Well, unfortunately, we had La La Land come out this year, so that's going to take all the music stuff. But I actually thought Kubo and the Two Strings was the better animated film, but Zootopia is funny, as my nephew has pointed out many times. So we're gonna take one last comment about the Oscars, and then we're going to close this show.
All right.
Hey, welcome to That Nerd Show. What's your name?
Good evening. It's Joshua. Just want to say, hey, Marcus. Hey, Brendan. And
good.
Wanted to give
a
shout out.
We actually know this person.
Yeah, you do.
We've been trolled.
I just wanted to give I've heard at least one of them. Yeah, it was fun. I want to give a shout out to the best sci-fi co-star ever, though we lost, and just wanted to speak his piece this evening. Pax and all that. And what was kind of interesting, and I didn't actually, I'm sure I've heard it before, but I didn't know, until today, which is the fact that he's actually from Fort Worth. And that made the thing a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask
he's a local boy.
I want to ask you real quick, because you loved Hidden Figures, being the science person. You thought,
in fact,
when you wrote an article about the top 5 NASA movies, that was like at the top of your list. Although I think you're wrong about the right stuff, but that's a discussion for another time. But
no worries, I'll look forward to that one too.
Yeah. Was that your pick, your personal pick for Best Picture?
Easily, yes. And the reason why I was actually hesitant calling in is because, frankly, and I've heard y'all mention it before tonight, earlier this evening, I should say, about how Hollywood really is a giant political machine. It's entertainment, but it's still politics. There's this politics that I don't necessarily agree with a lot, and because of that, I won't go as far as to say I boycott them, but, I definitely don't watch it, and so I wanted to let you guys give me the crash course on who won what, and thank you for that, by the way. But yeah, I would have definitely given Best Picture to Hidden Figures. It definitely highlighted something that, very much as the title suggests, most people did not, and hey, myself included, did not know about NASA and prior to it, the NACA, what was going on.
That's the thing. They don't teach that in school. I mean, that's what's...
Well, yeah, and what I think it did a very good job of doing was, let's be honest. This is a story about math. Okay, so these ladies made math cool. All right, that's right. I mean, just for that, you deserve a nomination. So because that's a hard thing to do, especially to a younger audience. To me, it ticked off one of my boxes because it's a historical piece about modern history that's about space, and I'm a huge sci-fi guy, and where does sci-fi come from but really our own personal experiences and what we dream we could do. And then you add into it that it does touch these topics about, about race and about women, and, not just race, but about women in these positions, and especially in a time where they generally weren't allowed to be. And it does it without being preachy. It doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
It does. It shows you what it was. It doesn't slam it in your face and go, all men are evil and women should rule the world, which everybody's supposed to be equal.
Mad Max.
And it did a very good job of just showing what people can accomplish when you set aside prejudices and work together.
Right.
Couldn't agree more. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I know I mentioned this when you went to the press screening. That to me the whole scene that sums up that entire movie was when they yell at her for having to go a half a mile to use the restroom, and the next scene, Kevin Costner's knocking down the colored only sign, to the restroom.
Right.
No more. We won't have that here. And use the restroom.
We all pee the same color. Right.
Exactly. It's a sentimental moment, but it really does. It does set the tone for that. That had nothing to do with race. It's the best person for the job, and
exactly.
And that's what got us to the moon. That's what helped our space program. So it's also why by the way, I should mention too that Joshua did an editorial review on that movie, and also why we need NASA, and why it's very disappointing that the politics in this country can't get out of its own way, and we can't have a space program again in exploration.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Not to derail too much away from nerd entertainment, but more towards nerd space. In that regard, and needing NASA, that's why I'm glad companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are making the progress that they are, because it's allowing space exploration to take on less necessarily government intervention, and I don't know that our government is headed in a direction that's very pro-space. So we need your
SpaceX did announce that. I saw a YouTube post actually today saying that by 2018 they would have 2 private citizens go around the moon.
Mm-hmm. That's right. But that's a hell of a boarding pass, I'm gonna tell you, for like $20 million.
Well, I already know it's not going to be us because we don't have that kind of money.
Right.
But hey,
or me even.
Well, and first of all, I don't want to be the guinea pig either. I'm not getting in that plane, and I am not getting in that rocket until a few 100,000 people have gone before me.
Wait a minute. They'll name a school after you, though.
Fantastic.
Or
I don't
library.
care.
Hey, can we get the
so they can read
back?
about how my dumbass blew up?
Yeah, let's get the troll back. We have a job for you.
Yeah.
So. All right, we got about 2 minutes. Joshua, stay with us. Close this out. So we want to do one quick thing. Brendan, real quick, give us a beer recommendation before we have to go.
Sure thing. So Noble Ray Brewing here in Dallas, Texas, has a beer called Steampunk Rousing Steam. It's a California common steam beer like Anchor Steam, which is where you take lager yeast and ale it instead of doing it in cold fermentation. It's a real flavorful beer. Got a nice roasty caramely malts to it. Goes down real easy. It's 5.4%. You can drink a lot of them and not get hammered. It goes really well with food, and you'll enjoy it a lot. So Noble Ray Steampunk Rousing.
Okay. And getting back to what you should be streaming, yes, go ahead, watch all the Oscar movies. I know that a lot of people haven't seen every one of them yet. But if you're going to go back and really watch the movies that you should watch again, I think in keeping with the NASA theme and the space theme, and because, our good friend Bill Paxton died, I'm going to just say Apollo 13. That movie never gets old. One of the greatest space movies ever, and very, great cast. Just tell me one bad
People
part
can
about
quote
that
it who
movie.
haven't even seen it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So, All right, everybody.
And if you want a space TV show, The Expanse.
There you go. All right, everybody. We are going to be off for about 5 weeks because March is very busy with us with a convention, and then, of course, the Dallas Film Festival will be starting at the end of March into April. So we have a lot of stuff coming up, but we will be back with our weekly podcast afterwards, which look out for our reviews and keep up with the news. And everybody, stay nerdy. All right, everybody, say goodbye. We are out of here.
Have a good night.
Drink more beer.
Ta-ta.